Thank you, Madam Chair. This report deals with two of the CCO's statement of intent. Obviously, the next paper deals with the Rotorua one. Look, overall, the statement of intents are very comprehensive documents. In places, they're a little bit longer than they need to be. However, overall, it doesn't diminish the actual quality of the statement of intents. Both are very concise with regards to the objectives that they're looking to achieve and tying that into the Council's overall strategy as well. So with that, I'll take it as read and have any questions, Madam Chair.
Councillor Donaldson.
Not really a question, Madam Chair, but a suggestion. Just looking, I agree with all the comments about the proposed alterations that we ask the board to make to the statement of intent, but just looking on page 56, the bottom set of bullet points there, the delivery priorities will be supported by following key objectives, and it's that third one that concerns me a bit, because it talks about redeveloping the original terminal as if that's sort of just a project that's popped up, rather than the word upgrade, that it's necessary building strengthening that's required. And there's already been some comment about why we're squandering more money on this airport, and the very sort of afterthought-ish statement there about the fire station. So I'd just like to see a bit more emphasis on why that's a necessary piece of work.
Yeah, look, correct, Councillor Donaldson. The reality is both of those buildings have actually earthquake strengthening issues, and the fire station is definitely fixing that up, but actually making it more fit for purpose for the operation. And the terminal, while they're fixing the earthquake issues with the old part of the terminal, obviously you're going to pull everything apart and then you'll redevelop it as you put it back together. I think that's the intent of it.
Councillor Gould.
Chair, with page 58, quite often on board members, they got the ability of knowing who is good to be a board director. Will they have the ability to nominate and appoint their own board members or not?
No, that will always sit with council as the shareholder. The chairman of the board can recommend potential directors for the future, but ultimately it comes down to council's decision.
Second question, on page 59, expectations. You've got a list of what their expectations are. Doesn't necessarily mean that they have to have that ability. Am I right in saying that?
I'm not too sure what you mean, but this is actually one of the sections that can actually be condensed. A lot of it reiterates probably what's already covered in the Companies Act and all those sorts of things with regards to the director's responsibilities.
I'm saying that one of them you got listed as financial literacy. Okay, it might mean that a director might not understand a balance sheet very well, but he might understand how an operation operates and be able to give other services to that particular organisation rather than read a balance sheet. And expectations to me means that you just expect the person to do it, but not compulsory for the person to do it.
I think I understand what you mean, Councillor. I think ultimately of our directors we expect them to have a certain level of financial literacy. That doesn't mean they have to be, that's their strongest suit, but with regards to what else they bring to the board, there is an expectation that there's that reasonable level of literacy to be able to add value and understand what their role entails.
Thank you. Ms Morrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Given that the CCOs, to a certain extent, are delegated some key functions of the council, and in light of this new partnership agreement between Te Aroha and the council, has there been any consideration about how the council or the CCOs may embody or implement the partnership overlay within their operations or statement of intent? Might be a question for Jeff, perhaps.
I think, to be perfectly frank, the short answer to that question is no. Where we are at the moment really is very much at a formative stage, I think, with the CCOs. And what if we take the paper that is coming up, we're really looking at a new structure for economic development. What we will need to be doing both at a portfolio level and at a CCO level is looking at what is the nature of the Māori economy and what is our role within to actually support that. So there's a strategy focus. There's also a focus around representation at board level and also on the steering group. So those are important aspects. But to be perfectly honest, I think we're right at the early phase of this, and having involvement from Te Tātou around the table will certainly provide a greater level of scrutiny as to board level appointments and also statements of intent about what our organisations are doing. So that's really where we are at this stage.
Thank you. Your Worship? Oh, sorry, Councillor Kent first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, with respect to the performance measures for the airport on page 62, just looking at the aircraft movements there, has any allowance been made in the calculation of these figures for the declining number of aircraft movements, but the increased passenger counts that are taking place? Because if I recollect correctly, at the AGM from the airport, aircraft movements are actually falling, not increasing, but that doesn't mean to say the passenger numbers are, it just means we're getting bigger aircraft on the route.
That's as I understand it.
Well, I understand it that the numbers included here are reflective of what's currently happening, and obviously going into the future trying to grow that. But yes, I think that has been taken into account.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart.
Okay,
I beg your
thank you.
pardon, Your Worship. Sorry.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. That
Oh.
was just my first question.
Oh, sorry. Beg your pardon. Yes, please do.
Thank you. My second question is on page 75 with a view to Rotorua contracting. We show revenue figures there. There doesn't appear to be any expenditure or, whilst you say net profit after tax of nothing, and there's no capital expenditure budget being set for them here. Is there a particular reason for that?
No, that is one of the feedback comments to the board, to ask them to expand out that financial information to provide a bit more clarity and transparency on that.
Thank you. And my final question, we're looking at the revenue dollars that you're projecting there, and from over the page they seem to be on a par with core services from council, but that doesn't seem to reconcile with the fact of the refuse and recycling collection services but going off to a different contractor. Something doesn't seem to be quite right there.
And that's, Councillor, because the statement of intent was prepared before that decision was made, so there was an assumption therefore that there was uncertainty as to where that would go, and following that decision, when they finalise it, they will make that necessary adjustment in the statement of intent. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
It isn't a question, but just an observation that the airport company does have an iwi representative on it that is replaced by iwi. So that's, but our role will be an appointment of directors.
Councillor Stewart.
One thing, Madam Chair, I'm quite happy with what's in front of me, but I thought it would have been nice, like in a prospective format, that the actual directors were named, because they own this statement of intent. And further to what Councillor Kent was saying on page 75, over time, Thomas, do you expect a trading account type sort of format to be part of that? Yeah.
Yeah, yes, that's right. I thought they were actually, but you're right.
It's not a requirement, so but if you wish for them to have them, we can provide that feedback if they're happy to include their names in there.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Stewart. Can I have a sneeze down? Thank you, Councillor McVicker. Oh, beg your pardon. Jeepers. Bit bigger. Thank you. Yes, Councillor McVicker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Page 78, diversified revenue base, obtaining an extra $0.7 million from external sources. Realistic? And what is the actual this year?
I think the actual this year is about 400,000. Is it realistic? Yes. We're in discussions with Tim and his team at the moment. They've got some issues with regards to some service delivery and a few other bits and pieces, but looking to offer them some assistance so they can push on and try and achieve this. There's a lot of opportunity there, particularly with the nursery, that they just haven't been able to leverage yet because of some legacy issues they're trying to deal with.
Was I correct in you were seconding that? Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'll put that motion that the committee resolves to make comment on the draft statements of intent for Rotorua Regional Airport Limited and Rotorua Contracting Limited as outlined in the report. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Thank you. Carried. Recommendation 8. May I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report, Economic Development Services Review, Final Report, Part A. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Berman Kemp. Thank you, Councillor Hunt. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Thank you. Carried. Thank you, Andrew. And who's...
Madam Chair, councillors, I've got a very quick couple of slides we'll just run through, but and I promise they will be very quick. Obviously this report follows on from one in December, which sort of completed a bit of a review of our current economic development services. I just thought, just before I kind of start the presentation, just wanted to kind of reinforce that obviously this proposal builds upon the really excellent work and the success of both Grow Rotorua and Destination Rotorua over the last sort of few years. And it's really about evolving those arrangements rather than looking to do away with them, and just to really sort of take advantage of some of the new opportunities that that are presented to us as a district. So the report, I'm not going to go into in a lot of detail. I just thought it was useful just to touch on obviously the governance model, which is really about reconfirming council's role in leading, developing strategy and providing priorities in the economic development space, and really clarifying how that alignment works, obviously with the Economic Development CCO and the other organisations, of which there are many that are involved in delivering economic development services across the district. So clearly there are a number, including the likes of Rotorua X, the Chamber of Commerce, etc. The other kind of thing that we'll just note in that governance model is the Economic Growth Advisory Group, which is led by the Economic Growth Portfolio Lead, and it's really about an advice, providing advice both to council and also to those delivery entities, and helping just to coordinate some of the activity that goes on in this space. One of the things with the number of players that participate in this area is that there is a real opportunity for people to be sort of tripping over one another, and obviously part of this is about trying to be really clear about who's doing what. The next sort of slide just sort of covers off really what are we asking this new CCO to do, and so this is really the strategic operating framework. We've identified there's 3 really sort of clear areas of responsibility for the CCO. First one, business development. So again, this is really the focus is on existing businesses within our community. It's not, I should really stress, this is not about delivering programs. This is about helping to facilitate program delivery, making sure that we understand what our local business community really need, and ensuring that those needs are being met. The next area is investment attraction. Won't spend a lot of time on that, but clearly it's about making sure that we're removing barriers. We're understanding, I think, what the market opportunities are, and helping to facilitate that investment with the private sector. And the third area is sort of tourism growth. Again, it picks up all of the fantastic marketing work that we do currently, and focuses on what are those other investments we need to be making in terms of that space, both from a business development and an investment attraction perspective. And the last slide, so sort of be brief, is just really in terms of where we're up to in terms of the process overall. So clearly we completed the initial review back in December. We've small teams been working since then to develop up and to talk with our sort of key stakeholders and partners a bit more of a detailed proposal, which is obviously what's contained in the paper. This phase is really about your opportunity to have a look at this and provide comment and sign off to move forward. And then the phases beyond that, we've obviously got implementing the governance arrangements entirely. So there's a need to, complete board appointments, make adjustments to the SOI and some of those types of things. We'll proceed on with recruiting a new CEO for the organisation, and the process will be the same as what was used for Rotorua contracting, so Council will continue to have a hand in that. And obviously we're working towards a target of the Destination Rotorua staff transferring into the CCO, and that's utilising the GROW CCO on 1 July. And obviously any further kind of changes will be at the direction of the new board and their new chief executive. So that's the kind of process overview. So happy to take any questions.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. I'm sure there'll be a number. Councillor McVicker.
Thank you, Andrew. What is the CCO going to be called? Is the tourism word going to be included in it?
Yeah, look, that was a debate that we had in terms of putting this paper together, to be honest. And I think the place we arrived at was we'd look to take the advice of the new board and obviously bring that back to this to council as part of the additional things that need to return to you. So at this stage, I don't have a strong opinion except to say that I think we just need to be really clear that this CCO is a part of Rotorua Lakes Council, and obviously that needs to be flagged in terms of whatever branding is put around it. So.
I suppose you don't have a working name or anything for the new one? Not yet. Just an economic development growth. Thank you. Yes.
The question is obviously aimed at the point of tourism. It is a big, big part of the whole CCO at this point of time, and I wouldn't want it to lose its identity and recognition.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Donaldson.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I think it's very clear in the purpose of the new entity, the three functional areas of responsibility. Tourism growth is one of those three. So that won't be lost. But Andrew and I have debated the importance of the name. The legal entity will be Grow Rotorua, but it'll be trading as, and that'll be, I think we'll take the advice of the new board on that, and I'm sure it'll be a well-considered discussion.
Thank you. Oh, do I have to read all of this? Oh, Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have some problems with this, and the reason stems because, unlike others, I don't hold the same opinion as the effectiveness of the expenditure on Grow Rotorua over the last few years and what it's actually managed to achieve for the people of Rotorua. One of our 2016 priorities was supposed to be coming up with a cost-effective and efficient council. And one of the biggest expenditure areas within this council is in fact with Destination Rotorua marketing, the marketing aspects of this council, Grow Rotorua and so on. I don't believe that we've actually even had a look at that to see whether in fact it is efficient, whether in fact it's doing the job it should be doing. Personally, I have issues with trying to represent Rotorua with an advertisement that has a female in an op-shop dress jumping out in front of a mountain bike. I'm sorry, that's not good advertising for Rotorua. So there are some issues that I think go beyond just let's wrap it all up and push it off to a side where it's tucked away, and hopefully the same people that have been running Grow Rotorua are going to actually make it all work. So I actually have a problem here.
Thank you. That campaign has actually been very effective. So, however, thank you very much. Councillor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Page 90, the director remuneration, you put a board chair of 20,000, a board member of 10,000. I personally feel if you want to get really top people, might not be enough. You know, if you want to really make things grow, then you need people with ability, with vision, with drive, with expertise. And it means, people travelling from another city to Rotorua, $10,000 just doesn't cover much in airfares or accommodation if required.
Councillor, those are the rates that we obviously currently pay for Grow Rotorua and our other boards, and that's obviously what we've stuck with at this stage. So.
Thank you. Councillor Gord, I would agree that if you're looking at a professional director, yes, they do get more. But people come on board to support their city because they want to make a contribution. They have invested in this city, some of them, many of them have. They have their homes here, their children are being educated here, they work here. And so if they have an opportunity, I'm not saying to give back, but I guess that is in fact what they're doing, but to contribute in some way, they're not looking for a high remuneration. They're looking to see, can I add value to the work that I actually support the organisation to be doing? So I think there is some, as I'm just saying, there's a difference. And but we will get quality people because we know who has the interests of Rotorua at the centre, and there are a lot of them. Some of them reside within Rotorua, some of them are outside of Rotorua, but yeah.
And Madam Chair,
Yes.
their travel and accommodation is additional
That's
to their
right.
remuneration.
That's true, yes. Thank you. Beg your pardon, yes, Your Worship.
Well, I'm certainly in support of these recommendations. I believe the time is right now. I think that we've been we've proceeded at a steady rate to sort out the CCOs, the airport, and then the transfer of assets, then Rotorua contract, and now it's time to look at the next generation of the CCO structure. And there's so much synergy putting these together that I think that is just the next generation of growth. So I think this is very exciting. We haven't struggled in the past to get quality directors. That's not our problem. So remuneration, while significant symbol really of valuing their contribution, these people want to do it to actually help us grow Rotorua. So I think this is the next phase. I do like the three directions that are very clear in the statement of intent. I don't think in the past that we've done enough about attracting new businesses. So I'm glad it's in there and up front. No problem about tourism. In fact, I totally dispute you there, Councillor Kent. Tourism growth in Rotorua is astronomical, and the feedback I get at tourism events that I get invited to as the Mayor is the sheer delight of famously Rotorua. And how do you do it as a partnership initiative and project is sort of the envy of other councils. So you get others saying, how did you manage to get this partnership with the industry? And what a lovely product. So I think it speaks for itself in the growth in tourism, which is growing at the most rapid rate, both inbound and international. And I think it says a lot about our place. So to me, this is just the next generation of CCO development. I think it's very exciting, and I'm sure we're not going to struggle to get quality people into this CCO.
Your Worship, would you like to move 2 and 3? Yes.
So move 2 and 3.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell, then Councillor Stewart.
Organisations have morphed together. I think and you're right, Your Worship, about the famously promotion. I mean, that's because we've had the right staff pushing it, engaging with our tourism community, not only our tourism community, but our business community. And I just think this is a natural way of these two entities coming together. I think it's hand in glove in terms of growth. Our growth, I want to see, our Wood First project. We've had a number of reports back to us on what Rotorua has been doing, why they've been doing it, how they've been doing it, who they've engaged, etc. And it's across a wide spectrum. So I, like you, Madam Chair, I have no problem with this. I was a sceptic in the beginning that Rotorua would not perform, but it has performed. And whilst it can't say, oh, I got 26 new businesses or 26 this or we created this, to a certain degree. They do a lot of spade work with the private sector that ensures that these projects go, and it's reflected in our building consents, our development that's occurring around Rotorua at the moment. So I just think this is a natural transition into them being morphed together and moving forward. And already, Madam Chair, we've seen the government signal in the budget, John Key signalled in the budget yesterday, there is a huge impact on tourism on the infrastructure of local bodies, and that they're going to do something about it in the government. I mean, going to do something about it in the budget, which comes out in May, and I'm looking forward to that, because obviously government can see the benefits of this. I mean, they're getting all the GST and tax and all those sorts of things, and they're prepared to invest back. So I want us to be at the table, but government, central government, will look at this coming together, and I'm just delighted that over time it hasn't just stayed still, that they've come together and there's a crossing of the minds. But I think, Madam Chair, it is important that some of the kudos goes to our staff who have, particularly in the tourism promotion and marketing area, put together some fantastic promotions. I mean, I in my own business took the famously Rotorua video to the North Shore Event Centre, and there were there was 45,000 people went through that show, and we had to move people on who were standing there watching our girl in her cheap warehouse dress, whatever he said it was, and realising they could hear the cars outside, so it all fitted in really well. But I think that has been a huge success, and I think the staff have to take a huge pat on the back for the work that they've done in that area. So I'll be supporting the recommendations, every one of them.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I won't stand in the way in the joint coming together of all this, but from the time I've always been on council, tourism has been one of our main strengths, and I believe still is. And I at the moment, I want to first of all acknowledge and thank the boards of Grow Rotorua and Destination Rotorua, who've done some fabulous in bringing together and doing that investment partners program together, getting a lot of people on board. I think it's been good, and Councillor Stewart touched on it, and I was going to acknowledge the staff of both organisations, but especially I think having Oscar Nathan heading our tourism he's one of the best in the country. I won't stand in the way of the joining, but I'd hate to see either side get swallowed up by either side. And like Councillor McVicker earlier on in the piece, is the name tourism in there. If we don't have it in there, I get worried that the perception is we're not in it.
Takeover.
It's somewhere else, and it's just perception-wise. I mean, you see Tourism New Zealand has its own strong entity in Wellington, and so does the Ministry of Business Enterprise with Mr. Joyce. So, yeah, I want to see it work, but I just hope that the new board will strongly support both entities somehow.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt, then Ms Morrison.
Yeah, I'm keen to see tourism in there, and for me it is about tourism and economic development, so however they wrap that up into their name. I think that there's tremendous strength. Both these two CCOs have got to the point where they've got quite a depth of knowledge, and they've got some wins behind them, both of them. Joining them together, I think this is going to be a formidable CCO, and I truly believe we're on the right track here, and I look forward to when it is up and running. It's got its full complement of board, its new CCO, it's got a name that we're all proud of and that we can relate to, and that actually we start seeing some big tourism development and some additional economic development from that. So I'm fully supportive, and if it hasn't been moved number 3, I'd like to move that way.
Thank you. I think your worship moved, and if you'd like to second, thank you. Ms Morrison?
Thank you, you, Madam Chair. I do have a question, but I think it's more appropriately put in the confidential section, so I'll just leave it until then. So I just had a quick statement before we move on, that it's really great to see the statement in the report about diversity, and that the Lakes Council does support diversity and that best practice around governance, and that is a similar mindset that Te Tatau have. We have diversity across our board, so really excited to see what the interim or the initial board members come back with in terms of recommendations for the complementary board members to make up the whole.
Thank you. We are often asked to put our heads, put some thinking on about who might be out there. So I'm sure that any possible names could go to the mayor and with CVs or whatever. Yes. So, Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to refer to the draft terms of reference for the EGAG, which is a pretty horrendous acronym, I think, but the Economic Growth Advisory Group. To me, I think it needs a bit of wordsmithing. It comes across, when you look at 4.3, that they are not remunerated, which is in line with the other portfolio advisory groups. It comes across as a bit stern. It's almost like you're talking to a highly remunerated board member, that if you don't attend 3 meetings, you can be terminated by the portfolio lead. And the expectations, I mean, I think they're proper, but it just needs a wee bit of wordsmithing, because I just think it's sort of, it's a little bit stern in my view. But I might add that excellent candidates are aware of the fact that it's not a remunerated position, are putting their names forward. So that is, I think, indicative of the way this community works and wants to see this community progress towards Vision 2030. So I'll just leave it at that, but fully in support.
Thank you. So we do have a mover and a seconder. So I propose to put the motion there. Number 2, that the committee recommends to Council to integrate Grow Rotorua Limited and Destination Rotorua into a single economic development, council-controlled organisation, CCO in brackets, that operates within the governance model and strategic operating framework detailed in the report. And I'll take number 3 as well. 3, that the committee recommends to Council that A, Grow Rotorua Limited as an existing CCO is used as the corporate structure for the new single economic development CCO. B, the Grow Rotorua Limited 2016/2017 Statement of Intent SOI in brackets is received, and the new Economic Development CCO Board is requested to amend the SOI to reflect the Council expectations detailed in this report. C, the Economic Growth Advisory Group is authorised to undertake a selection process consistent with the board composition guidelines and board member competencies described in this report, and recommend to Council the remaining Economic Development CCO board appointments. D, the new Economic Development CCO board is authorised to begin recruitment for an Economic Development CCO Chief Executive Officer, noting the final appointment will require Council approval. And E, the RLC Chief Executive is authorised to complete the detailed implementation work, including the staff transfer process and any regulatory requirements that ensures the proposed Economic Development CCO is operational on the 1st of July 2016. That motion has been moved and seconded. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Thank you. Thank you. Carried. May I have a mover and a seconder, please, that we go into public excluded? Thank you, Councillor Tapsell. Thank you, Councillor Donaldson. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Thank you.